attorney. And now, the official injury law firm partner of the Denver Broncos. Ramos Law. What makes us different makes us better.
Good morning, crew, and happy Friday to you. I am Matt Meister. You are watching Mornings with Meister here on Peaks to Plains Weather. Got my mug going here with my second cup of the day, and I actually want to start off by, you saw on the billboard on the countdown there, that today is brought to you by American Classics Coffee. I have an update for you. Spence came over yesterday, Spence Verhines. He is the owner, he is the roaster, and he brought me some more coffee. He brought me Woody's Brew, which is a light roast. He says it's got a rich and spicy flavor, so I'm excited to try that one. But this is his grandfather in Belgium in World War II. That's Woody there on the bag. And then this is his family's cabin in Missouri in the Ozarks. This cabin's more than 100 years old. This is the cabin roast. It's a light roast with some hazelnut and chocolate notes there. And what is cool is he has made a code available for Peaks to Plains. Part of the crew, you can put in Peaks, P-E-A-K-S, on his website, and you can get 10% off. And his coffee is delicious. I've been drinking it all day, every day, and it's really, really nice to have that. And so thanks to Spence for doing that. It is very, very kind. All right, let's do a little bit of weather here early this morning before I have a special guest set to join me here. And I'm going to take us back to yesterday, when it was warm. We almost hit 60 in the Springs, lots of 60s out over the plains from Denver to Lyman, and mid and upper 60s in the southeastern corner of the state on Thursday. There was some wind around, and that helped to warm us up. Now this morning, as we wake up here, we're in the teens and 20s, which for the time of year, frankly, is not too bad. But when you compare it to this time yesterday, from the foothills eastward, we've already got about a 15 to 20 degree drop. Behind the cold front that came through last night, you might have noticed some wind kind of picking up as you were trying to go to bed. So outside this morning, good morning, Woodland Park. It's 14 there at Morning Sun Drive on the east side of town. Monument this morning, folks are moving along okay, 15 degrees right now. A little bit warmer on the west side of the Springs at Fort Carson. We've got 23 degrees on Highway 115, where things are moving along fine. Same deal in Pueblo this morning, where we've got 24, but that's chillier, like I said, than what we had this time yesterday. And as we look outside in Walsenburg this morning, not getting much in the way of wind right now, and the temperature 19. So you see it's kind of the same elsewhere across the region. And you know what? Wolf Creek actually has the same temp as some of us at lower elevations, some of the high mountain spots. Not really going to drop too much here over the next couple of days. And so we really get impacted by areas east of the mountains here by this change that is moving in. And I'm going to head over to the weather wall here real quick to give you a quick little breakdown on kind of the big picture before we jump into our special guest that I see getting ready there. So we'll meet with him in a second. You know, as the cold front has come in, we have seen a couple flurries, or at least some radar echo over parts of the eastern plains here. There was probably some flurries around Lyman. We talked about this over the last couple of days, that things really weren't going to be too big of an issue in terms of any snow that we might catch. We're going to keep all of that off to the east here, where you can see several rounds of snow kind of rotating around this clockwise area of flow over the eastern United States. Well, we're on the back side of that. And you can see, I put the jet stream on here for you, where you get into the brighter oranges is where the brighter wind are. And so there are several areas of enhanced wind here. These are jet streaks, shortwave troughs, we call them, kind of rotating through this long wave trough that is developing over the eastern U.S. And there is an area of some stronger wind up to the north that is going to play a role here a little bit later on today, probably starting in the late morning. That will drive kind of our weather here and the changes and the reason that we have the high wind warnings in place over eastern Colorado. And so to talk about that, I am going to welcome in our special guest today. I'm going to bring him here in the double boxes. This is live from the National Weather Service in Pueblo. It's my honor to welcome Steve Hodanish, one of the lead forecasters there. Steve, good morning. How are you?
Doing all right. How you doing, Matt?
I am doing great, my friend. You are getting toward the end of your shift here. You've been up all night working on this. In the look I took this morning, things don't look too different from the last couple of days. What were you guys seeing there in the WFO?
No, things haven't changed that much. It's going to be pretty windy everywhere, but it's farther out east as you go. I would say if I had to draw a line from like Rama down to Las Animas, Springfield, and anything east of that, it's really going to howl. We got that really tight gradient coming across. I was looking at some point soundings across the area, and the lapse rates, it's dry adiabatic in the lowest levels, and there's a lot of strong winds all the way down to 5,000 feet above the surface. And when that mixing brings that strong winds down, it's going to get breezy. Or I would say windy. Obviously the winds are going to be a concern. I'm concerned about a lot of blowing dust potential. Maybe some dust storm warnings may need to be issued. We'll have to see how this all plays out.
Yeah, I've been talking about that the last couple of days. You know, some of the areas over northeastern Colorado didn't get the snow that we got down here in the last sort of round, and I think that could be an issue too. I'm with you on that one. You talked about dry adiabatic. Let's open the window or open the curtain, get behind the scenes for people. You know, you heard me before I brought you on here talking about that jet streak coming in from the north, and when you were talking about dry adiabatic lapse rates there, that sort of is one of the things that controls how easily the air can move vertically and to help bring some of that stronger wind down to the surface.
Yeah, that is correct. It'll mix that air down pretty quickly. When you get that steep lapse, that's the instability in steep lapse rates. It does the trick, and it's probably going to do the trick later on today.
I thought one of the windiest areas east of the mountains, I thought would kind of be north of the area that you forecast for, kind of up on the, let's say, northeastern Colorado. I've zoomed in on the high wind warnings in that area. And I'm pulling up a model here, Steve, to help us with a couple of things, to show people the time window that we expect of the strongest wind gusts, because it kind of looks to me like late morning into early afternoon, but also that the strongest gusts may be in some pretty narrow bands later on.
That is true. It is looking now. It's kind of amazing how tight that gradient's going to be. You could be, in central El Paso County, you're going to say, hey, there's no wind at all, but you go all the way up to the northeast part of the county.
Right.
It's gonna pick up pretty quick. So there's gonna be a tight gradient there of where there's not. It's probably gonna be windy everywhere, but it's gonna pick up the farther east you go.
Right. And obviously when you get over, 55 miles per hour or so, and certainly into the 60s, that's kind of a threshold that you guys warn off of, because that starts to get into wind speeds that can start to bring down power poles or tree limbs and things like that, power lines. And one of the things I get concerned about in a deal like this, Steve, as we're looking at it here, is Interstate 70 and all the semis that are driving east to west, kind of in that crosswind.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if some trucks get blown over. Hopefully not. My greatest concern is if we get a fire going out there, and you have those strong winds, and then you get those blowing dust, so you have no idea you can't see the fire.
Right.
That's my greatest concern right now. Now, the good news, it's going to be pretty cold today. So it's not like it's this late spring where we can have real problems, but still, that's my concern for today.
Yeah, I agree with you. And, down power lines can do that. Sometimes on the interstates or roads, people that are pulling trailers, there might be a chain that is, creating some sparks. Sometimes that can start some fires. So in these situations, we do get worried about that. And you can see the pink shaded area here that the Boulder Weather Service office issued for the Denver area. That's a red flag warning that, again, because of fire weather concerns, they're like what you said, they don't think the wind wind will be as strong in the metro as it will be out across the plains, but still some wind issues to contend with. Let's talk about the area that you forecast in southern Colorado, where you guys have the high wind warning out across the far eastern plains. And I want to bring some of that model data in again and show people, I think, why you guys issued a warning for where you did, because those gusts over 50 miles per hour in the middle part of the day, they're way out east in southern Colorado.
That is correct. Generally, that east of that line from Rama down towards Los Animas, east to Springfield, that's where it's going to be windy.
And I think, like I was saying before you popped on and I was recording some stuff, like 10 to 2 o'clock, maybe 3 o'clock down in this area is kind of the window. Middle of the day there, the sun is up, we're hitting high temps, promoting that mixing that you were talking about. It's kind of that window that I see for the strongest gusts to occur.
Yeah, it's kind of all coming together around that time. The tightest grain is going to be coming across during the maximum heating. It's January this time, but still we're going to be under the maximum heating. And then, like I said, the lapse rates are that cold air advection at 700 millibars, pretty intense, and it's going to set those lapse rates up, and it's going to get windy.
What are some discussions, Steve, that have happened in the office in regards to, you talked about fire danger in January, and I would say over the last decade in particular, we've all gotten to this place where, fire season is 12 months out of the year in Colorado when the weather conditions are right. But I was looking at the snowpack earlier this week, and on, I think it was Wednesday, might have been Tuesday, it was the 0 percentile of the data set up across the mountains of Colorado when you took the snow water equivalent. It's low snowpack up there. That starts getting me thinking about long-term impacts of like this dry weather that we've been having, even though a week ago we were dealing with the snowstorm.
Yeah, that is correct. I was looking at the snowpack just before I called you, and it's pretty much running like 45 to 65%, pretty much across the entire area. There's a little bit more up near Steamboat,
right,
and a lot less down towards Wolf Creek. But yeah, that is a serious concern that we could potentially have if things don't start to change around here. But past history has shown sometimes once May rolls around, April, May, it can start to snow pretty heavy. But so let's hope for that. But right now it's not looking good.
Yeah, we're not in a good pattern for sure. One of the things that can help is sometimes it just takes one of those late season storms, like in March or April, that, you start getting into that warm time of the year, you start getting moisture from the Gulf out over the plains, that from a water year perspective, can end up putting down more than an inch of water. And then when you look at the winter in whole, you're like, oh, well, yeah, the snow was okay, but a lot of it just comes from one of those kind of once a decade blizzards that we can get,
Well, look what we had down in Pagosa, 2 months ago.
Right.
We had that, historic flash flooding. If the temperatures were only a little bit colder, that could have been one heck of a snowstorm, but unfortunately it wasn't. So rainfall-wise, if you look at our statistics, we're actually above normal precip for the month of January here because we had that one event. But it seems like over the years, the number of rain days that we get are less, but when it does rain, it's heavier.
Right.
So it's the way it's kind of it's changing like that. We're getting less rain days, but when it does rain, it comes down.
Which isn't necessarily
Precipitates.
right. Which isn't necessarily great when you start talking about, agriculture and water. I mean, you'd rather have more persistent kind of lighter events just for the health of the vegetation and everything, because you get these big events. If it's rain, like a lot of it runs off and doesn't even make it down into the ground, and you don't really get the benefit of it. And then you have the flooding issues that you talked about.
I guess when I look at the data, it just looks like we're having these micro droughts. We'll go 3 weeks with nothing, then we'll get an inch of rain, 3 weeks of nothing, and so it dries out, and of course the grass dries out, and then you get these fires that cause so many problems. So it is kind of interesting how it seems like the pattern is overall changing with the event of number of rain day or precipitation days.
Right. Well, anything else that you want to share this morning from a weather service perspective or anything before I let you go? Because I know you're about 15 minutes from getting out of here, and I don't want to, be the delay to your weekend, Steve.
Yeah, well, no, it's not my weekend.
Oh,
Today's my Tuesday.
Okay.
The thing is, I wish I had some better news, but just looking at the long range models here that I'm sitting in front of, just this northwest flow, it's just not looking promising. Hopefully, we'll get some changes later on this winter, early spring. But right now, it doesn't look promising.
No, it doesn't. And I have that up right now, at least for the back part of the, kind of what we would call the short-term forecast for sort of late next week. I mean, you see another wave coming down in the flow there, but like the last few, that kind of misses us off to the northeast. And yesterday, this model that I'm looking at here, which is the European, just so you know, had a more significant kink up across the northern Rockies on Friday. And some snow up there, and then this morning's model run, that's gone. And this is what we call a deterministic model. This is one run of the model. One of the other things that we look at behind the scenes are what we call ensemble models, where you make small tweaks to the initial parameters of the model, and you run it a bunch of times, and then that kind of helps you get a sort of good median of where the model is and kind of takes the outliers out. But yeah, I mean, this looks a lot similar. I mean, the trough over the east isn't as deep, but that pattern looks a lot like what we've got this morning.
Yeah, what's actually kind of near that we have here at the office now is we have something called the dynamic ensemble-based scenarios for IDSS, and it takes, you were talking about ensemble models for one model, but then it takes all the ensemble models for every model. So we have like 100 points of data. It creates statistics for all that meteorological variables going out 7 days, and that's really nice to look at. And I'm staring at it right now. And it was, even though with all the models looking at it from a statistical point of view, it's not looking good.
Yeah, we need a pattern change in a big way. Well, Steve, thanks for what you have done for Southern Colorado over the course of your career and here at the Pueblo National Weather Service. How many years has it been now?
It's been I've been doing this for 35 years. I got joined the Weather Service in '91. Was up at CSU in Fort Collins in the '80s. Got my degree up there, and was out in Florida for a few years and came out here. And I have no regrets. I love it out here.
Nice. Steve
Colorado weather rules, and the terrain rules.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Steve is the lightning guru of Colorado. He is the lightning expert for the Weather Service in the state. And when we were kind of setting this up over the last couple of days, we talked about having you on to share some of the research that you've done about lightning in Colorado. And, man, you have an open invitation anytime you want to come on. I'd love to have you here on Peaks to Plains.
Hey, I'm more than happy to do it. I really enjoy it and appreciate it and get to talk to everyone out there. And, we'll set something up sooner than later.
Okay, sounds good. Steve, have a great weekend. Thanks for joining me, my friend. I appreciate it.
All right, man. Take care.
Okay, thank you. All right, let's pop into the rest of the weather situation here, and we'll do some more detail up against the cities, what we're expecting for the weather today, and we'll talk about what is on tap for tomorrow as well. So in the cities, because I didn't talk about that earlier, and you heard Steve mentioning, the gradient out east, and that's where the high wind warnings are. We aren't going to have the wind here. In fact, Pueblo might have some of the lightest wind around today, and it might actually be out of the east for a little bit here that you see in the late morning and early afternoon, but maybe only up around 15, 20 miles per hour, kind of on the sustained end of things. It should pick up a little bit later in the day in Pueblo versus what we'll have here through the morning for sure. And then Colorado Springs, I do think the farther north you are in the metro area and kind of getting on to the east side of town, so places like Stetson Hills, getting up toward like Woodman and Powers, tours some of the new development on Woodman and Banning Lewis Ranch, the Percheron area that they're building right now, and certainly out toward Falcon and Peyton and Black Forest. We'll get some wind here into the back part of the day, sustained probably up around 15, 20, but there might be a couple gusts late in the day where we get up into the 30s. So we'll watch for that, and that will help you notice that big temperature drop that I have in the forecast today, because between today and yesterday, again, I showed you we had those numbers in the 60s for lots of spots east of the mountains. Today, I think we're going to be in the 30s and 40s. Now, we might get some highs that are in the 40s, but it will feel chillier than that with the wind. So I'm kind of forecasting here what I think you'll perceive. And when the wind's really cranking, it'll feel like teens and 20s. So not a great day in terms of the feel once the wind gets going. Some of you are checking in. Melissa's checking in already and says it's super windy in the Ellicott area. Certainly was overnight as the front was coming in. And you may be getting some of that already. Cindy checking in with contrast here. This is one of the things I think is fun about weather in Colorado. She's like, in Colorado Springs, it's calm. Yeah, depends where you are. That's one of the things that keeps us busy here. Linda appreciates the insight from Steve and what we're doing here on Peaks to Plains weather. And thank you, Linda, for watching. And if you wouldn't mind sharing Peaks to Plains weather with your friends, I certainly would appreciate that. One of the easiest things you can do is point them to Peaks to Plains weather and send them there to download the Peaks to Plains weather app. I've done a couple pushes already this morning. You see our live show going there. But right in the middle of the page, I have the links to download the Peaks to Plains weather app. You can also get to it up at the top of the page there, straight to Apple, straight to Android, or if you just hit that download app, it takes you to the middle of the page there. I really would appreciate that. I think that's the best way that I can take care of folks. Whoops, got my things messed up there. Also have a QR code you can download. Keep your location on, because I did highlight areas this morning and was pushing different things to different app users. You know, we all get so much information nowadays. This is one of the ways that I can try to cut through the noise. And when I send you a push alert, it's something that directly applies to you if you have your location turned on. So if you're in Colorado Springs, I'm not going to send you information if we're starting to get the gusts over 60 miles per hour later this morning. I'll leave you alone. Same deal for Pueblo. Parts of the mountains are going to get some wind today for sure. Let me show you that on the gusts. I think I've got that pulled up here, so let me find that in the weather computer, because some of you over the hills are probably like, well, you're not talking about us on the wind speeds. Hold on, I will. I'll get that up. That's one of the cool things that we get to do here together on Peaks to Plains weather. And I need to make some of those real small scale maps for some of the mountain areas that I've shown out across the plains. That's kind of one of the things that I'm doing here is, you know, as weather situations come along, I am making the maps that I need to talk about them in the weather computer back behind the scenes, and then getting those ready to go. So I can't have 2 years worth of weather development in a weather system done when you launch a business, but I'm trying to get that stuff ready for sure. So let's check out the wind over the mountain areas. And what I'll point out here is, notice that the model is picking up along the eastern slopes in a lot of places where there's sort of that brighter orange. That's where it is showing its enhancement in the gusts. And so you can see here, especially west of Denver later this morning, that we're picking up some of that orange that we have out around Lyman on the plains. So the gusts in the mountains will be stronger in the northern part of the state than we'll have here in the southern part of the state, where I tend to focus my weather. I kind of focus from like the Palmer Divide, from Castle Rock to Kiowa, Lyman out toward Burlington off to the south, and then from about Gunnison and Pagosa off to Kansas is kind of the area I focus on. But you see, over the mountain areas, we'll certainly have some wind here as we head through the day today. And again, that is going to help those of us east of the mountains notice the temperature drop. I've got a comment here on my vest. Patrice likes the vest. Patrice, thank you. I am actually going out today to Advanced Impressions, who sponsor and kind of make the merchandise part of Peaks to Plains weather happen. I'm going to talk about their business. I'll share that here probably next week. I want to advertise when I'm cruising across town. So, Patrice, not only is this a vest here, I actually have a Peaks to Plains shirt underneath it as well. A little Superman action. Hey! And you can support Peaks to Plains Weather on the website, and that's peakstoplainsweather.com. I'll pull that up here and take you to the merch page. I thought it might be fun. I really love the drop that I have, and I thought other people might like it as well. People might want to support what I'm doing. And so I've got some t-shirts, hats. The mug was real popular yesterday when I made a post about it. And now it's just a breeze, but you're going to get windy again. So, batten down the hatches. Lynn is on Mud Creek, says 7 mile per hour gust. Susan says, love seeing ya. Getting the day's weather report. Susan, good to see you as well. So, I'll wrap up today with this. Peaks to Plains tries to be in all of the places that you are. Wherever you are is where I want to be. So I am on social media. You can find me at the Meister, the accounts I've had for a long time. Peaks to Plains Weather has accounts on Facebook and Instagram. Haven't got a company one on TikTok yet, but I'm working on it. If you are sitting at your desktop computer like Steve was this morning, like I am, you've got the website. There's YouTube. You can watch the 24-hour channel. You can get on the website and watch the 24-hour channel. On the website, I've got my forecasts on there, current information. I'm going to build out a page of the businesses that are supporting Peaks to Plains Weather because, if you are supporting me, I encourage you to support them when you are making your consumer choices. So, that's one of the things that you can do as well. So it's coming up on 7 o'clock. I've got things to do since I have to get out to Advanced Impressions today. I appreciate you starting your day with me. Share the Peaks to Plains weather app with people. Please tell them about it. I'll make a post about that on social media today. You can share it or you can save the image and then just pull it up on your phone and say, hey, Matt's doing a new thing, a new way, and, you can download the Peaks to Plains weather app. So I'm going to put a QR code like this on there, and then you can just fire that up to your friends and be like, hey, download Meister's app. It's great. If you think it's great. If you don't think it's great, then don't do it. I don't want to make you do anything you don't want to do, but I certainly would appreciate it. So crew, thanks for joining me today. Have a great weekend, and I'm going to end with this because I am in full agreement with this. This coming from Sean, who says, go Broncos tomorrow afternoon. Sean, I'm with you. Thanks for watching Mornings with Meister here on Peaks to Plains Weather. I'll see you next time. Have a good Friday.